Hey, everybody. Welcome back. An emergency episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. We had just recorded an episode that's currently being uploaded for you guys last night with Kenny Jordan. And then since then, we've had 5 former Spartans sign NFL deals or tryouts. We've had 3 football commits. It's been kind of a crazy day, so we figured we'd hop on and give you an update really quickly on all the happenings. This will go up tonight. And hopefully we'll be current, crossing our fingers on that. But Emmett, thanks for popping on real quick and joining me. More good news for MSU football.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I'm perfectly fine if we aren't the most up to date, and that means MSU added a couple more players, preferably an edge rusher or two. I'd be glad having to jump back in and record in a couple hours. But yeah, the Spartans have had 3 players sign on for the 2025 team, in addition to having 5 members of the 2024 team begin their pro careers either with a tryout or with an official contract for the pros.
Absolutely. We'll start off first with the current commits that landed today. That'll be playing football for MSU this fall. First, we'll start off with the most recent one, Kai Rios. He's a tight end transfer from Indiana State. He'll have 2 years of eligibility left. We also landed Anthony. He was most recently playing football at Iowa Western, was in spring camp with UTSA, but entered the portal after that. He is a defensive back. He will have 2 years of eligibility, Ypsilanti native. And then Tracy Revels, we kind of hinted at this in the episode that you haven't even seen yet, but will come out. I know Justin Thinn's been talking about it. Kenny kind of reconfirmed some stuff with us too. But Tracy Revels, a DB transfer from Bowling Green, 3 years of eligibility left. He committed today. He's likely going to play safety for us next year. So all in all, 3 commits. Emmett, what are your thoughts on the 3 new Spartans?
So my overall thoughts are just, especially with Tracy Revels is the one I'm most excited about. He has a starting experience in the MAC with Bowling Green, started 7 games for them last year, played in all 12 for the Falcons. He provides a great depth piece, especially with freshman defensive back Jalen Thompson transferring back home after family health problems, I believe. And then Dylan Tatum also entering the portal, which means you're down 2 players who can play safety. Obviously, Tatum was more of a corner and nickel during his time in the green and white. But regardless, had the ability to play safety. You cover that with adding Revels. And then Pinnes, I see as more of a corner, maybe a nickel. You have quite a few bodies there, but multiple of them, including, I believe Najee Bird has 2 years left, and then I believe Malcolm Bell is in his final year, Joshua Eaton's in his final year. So you have bodies to compete, give you depth, and then Kai Rios is the one I would say probably most under the radar, probably the one most people like why or least excited for. I do think he provides value. I have not had the opportunity to see a ton of film on him, wondering if he's more of the blocking tight end we need to complement Michael Masuna's, have 2 good blocking tight ends. But overall, Rios had 7 catches for 61 yards and 1 catch for 8 yards the year before that. 1 total touchdown with the Sycamores. Did not record any stats against Indiana in their game last year, but he is a player that provides depth, and it's something the Spartans were looking for. You saw in the last portal, they landed Mason Minnie for all of 1 day before he decided to stay closer to home in California. But overall, this is the type of player you want to pick up, just have extra bodies, because we saw last year when we were trotting out defensive end James Schott for a field goal opportunity because we didn't have enough healthy tight ends in the room.
Yeah.
So overall, this is a position you need. My one concern, I was going over this with Chris before the podcast, is that now we have 3 players with 2 years of eligibility left at tight end. So you kind of have a logjam there. The question becomes Wyatt Hook, incoming freshman Jaden Savory. Then you have 2 more tight ends in the class underneath. The question becomes, you have a logjam there, and you're going to have 3 seniors next year. Someone might transfer, and then you're really in a bad spot with only 2 scholarship tight ends and a true freshman the year after. So you're going to be looking at the portal again. Obviously, we're punting that problem down the road for the time being. Jack Velling is a senior, his final year in 2025. But that's just something to keep an eye on in the future. If you have a player hit the portal, you're really in a precarious situation. Looking at the 2027 depth chart. But obviously, right now, I'm assuming the staff more views that as a 2026 recruiting class, 2027 recruiting class problem, as opposed to right now where you need that depth. And if you get a guy with experience, that's even better, which is what you get in Rios. I believe he played 21 games for Indiana State during his time.
Yeah, and MSU thankfully runs a lot of multi-tight end sets and likes to rotate tight ends out, so most of them should get playing time at some point, throughout the next couple of years. So hopefully Cream will rise to the top, and if you do have to have a transfer or something, then that is something you can easily replace potentially with the recruit or a freshman recruit or another transfer portal target. We'll see. You don't like to see people rotating in and out, but one thing I think we're all kind of scared of after watching last season is just running out of bodies at positions. We saw it with corner, we saw it with tight end, we saw it with offensive line. So getting bodies in, that's good if everybody stays healthy. Maybe there's some redshirt opportunities for some people that haven't used their redshirt eligibility. Try to break that up if you need, but like you said, that's a problem for a future point in time.
Two more things on that also for the tight end situation. Michael Masunas might have an injury redshirt available with him only playing in like 3.5 games last season. Obviously, when you're hitting that redshirt mark of 4 games, it's going to be a little bit harder to bypass with the injury, but that is something that is under consideration. Not sure how or if that's very likely. I believe that one will be decided on in the fall of 2026 or spring of 2027 when he would be expending his eligibility. By then, he might also be looking at the NFL. I know scouts were high on him in the summer of 2024, just going to MSU's camps and going to MSU's practices when they were allowed and saying that, okay, this kid has stood out to us. So obviously that might not even be in the cards for MSU, depending on how Michael Masuna's final 2 assured seasons of eligibility plays.
Yeah.
One more thing also with 2 receivers hitting the portal and adding another tight end, you might see Jack Velling out in that slot position more often in the next year and have those multiple tight end sets, except with one offset, which is something that Lindgren does like to have in his offense. Offensive coordinator Brian Lindgren, for those at home. You might see Jack Velling go out there, and that will relieve the burden of only having, I believe, 9 scholarship wide receivers for next year pending portal action.
Yeah, and maybe not for this season so much. I mean, it's possible, but also I could see Jaden Savory doing that a bit too because he's just an athletic freak. So, maybe you use him a little bit as a hybrid receiver at points in time. Maybe not this year because he may redshirt as a freshman, but you never know.
Especially coming in late, yeah. I would agree with that coming in late. You have Bryson Williams, who's a big body at 6'2" as well. So the receiver room is being restocked. It's just a matter of you might see Jack Velling be that guy to provide that spark, especially with him having the most experience of any non-Aiden Childs player in that offense. Even more than Aiden Childs, honestly, due to his starting experience from his time at Oregon State.
Absolutely. Well, and then moving on to the former Spartans that have signed NFL deals or tryouts. We'll start with the ones from the recent teams. One of everybody's favorite players, Maverick Hansen, did sign a minicamp tryout with the Colts. So best of luck to Mav. Hopefully he can do well and carve out a roster spot there. Kayron Lynch-Adams from last year did sign a deal with the Bucks, so he has a
yeah, that is a contract. That one is not a mini camp.
So he'll have a spot going into the camp. The running back room in Tampa Bay has been crowded in the past, but it looks like they're trying to turn some of it over and go a little younger. So who knows? There could be an opportunity to squeeze in as a third.
Kayron played 6 years. Is he really younger?
Yeah, exactly. So who knows? But we'll hopefully can see him fit in Tampa there. Chris Bogle did sign a tryout, a chance with the New York Giants, and Legend Cavazos signed a tryout opportunity with the Bucks as well. Couple of tryouts mixed in there. One former Spartan who was not with the team last year, he had hit the transfer portal. Simeon Barrow did sign a full contract with the Atlanta Falcons. So congrats to Simeon. He will have an invite to.
He'll be trying to tackle Nate Carter, actually.
Yep, he'll be working with Nate Carter in Atlanta, trying to both earn a roster spot down there. Congrats to them. Hopefully, of all 5, they earn some playing time, get some roster spots locked down, and start their NFL careers on the right foot. Do you want to add anything to that, Emmett?
One thing to note, Maverick Hansen, he did work out at offensive line during Pro Day, and teams have expressed interest in him with how deep this defensive line class is. So that's something to consider for Hansen. You might see him playing on the offensive side of the ball. He was a one-time Central Michigan commit at offensive line before Mark D'Antonio came calling. Shout out Central Michigan for you, Chris. Normally I don't talk about them, but I'll give you this one time. Then, also, in case you did not see, Luke Newman was taken in the 6th round, 195 overall. This is mentioned in the previous podcast, but for those just tuning in to see that update. Additionally, Jonathan Kim and Nate Carter both have signed deals, with Kim heading to Chicago as well to compete against Cairo Santos for the kicking job. And then Nate Carter is heading to Atlanta, as we mentioned earlier, to compete there.
Yep. And then, of course, Derek Harmon did get drafted in the 1st round by the Steelers. So congrats to him. And
Ricky White to the Seahawks.
Ricky White drafted to the Seahawks. So a couple former Spartans getting drafted over the weekend. So we did a breakdown on those, the ones that did get drafted, plus Nate and somebody else.
Nate and Kim, I want to say.
Yeah, Nate and Kim. Yeah, that's what. Yep, Nate and Kim. So we did more of a breakdown with them on the episode that's going up here shortly. So check that out if you're more curious. We just wanted to hit on everything on this emergency ones. That's the up to date news. This should go up this evening, Sunday evening. We'll be up to date and starting the week out right. Hope for some more.
Hopefully, we're out of date by the time we hit upload. We would love to be out of date with another edge commit or something.
Yes, or some crazy something. I don't know. Let's go for the gold here. Let's get a crazy portal commit or high school recruit.
But with steps forward, there is not really a step back, but something to make you consider. 2026 quarterback Kayd Coffman, currently signed with the Spartans. He was recently named camp MVP, actually today, in a Under Armour camp in Ohio. Mm-hmm. However, he was taking an unofficial or official visit to Ohio State while he was in the area. Just something to consider. Obviously, it's not as if there's a huge pending deal that we know of. Nothing's been broken that he's, signing with Ohio State or something. That's just something to consider. Seeing your class quarterback go to a factory of quarterbacks where if you go there, even if you transfer after a couple of years, it seems like you're destined for the NFL. Yeah. That is just something that is, I would almost say, concerning as a fan, just to see, a really good quarterback developing team take interest in your class quarterback for the 2026 class.
Yeah. So we had mentioned when Kayd committed that he was starting to ramp up a lot of the major offers, and that's going to continue. So it's a long way to go to signing day, but he has expressed a lot of positive feedback in his relationships with the MSU staff and with East Lansing.
And he brought Eli Bickle in was one good example too.
Yeah.
He was helping recruit in the state, and that was one of the first things he said is, I'm going to try to help land offensive tackle Eli Bickle. And a couple weeks later, he also becomes a Spartan.
Yeah, so a lot of moving factors hopefully pulling him here. Hopefully it's just, he was in the area and swung by campus on their invitation, but we'll monitor and let you know if anything breaks.
It's a lot of moving parts. There's nothing official. This is not, we're losing him to a decommitment. There's not even been a crystal ball. I don't even know if there's been an offer from Ohio State quite yet.
Yeah, I'm not even sure yet either. So just something to monitor, of course, but we'll let you know.
And MSU has beat out a quarterback school in the past, with Ole Miss offering Kayd Coffman before his official commitment. So MSU has survived places that churn out NFL quarterbacks trying to poach their guy. So hopefully that continues the trend. This is one of those evils you get when you have a class quarterback commit so early. I remember the last time we had a quarterback commit so early in the cycle was Theo Day 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So obviously we're not used to this whole experiencing your quarterback going through the summer camps that you see, the spring camps actually that you see. So this is one of those evils you might have to get used to, depending on how fast Smith, Lindgren, and John Boyer can identify their targets and land them.
Yep, and Kayd will be on campus a few times over the summer. He's already got unofficials and officials scheduled, so plenty of chances for MSU to keep working their magic. So not
We
making.
want to iterate. This is just something to mention. It's not
Yeah.
the sky is falling. Run around with your hands in the air.
Yep. So we'll let you know if anything develops, but that's what we've got for now. Wanted to just jump on and get you some quick updates on everything MSU. So thanks for tuning in. We'll keep you posted on any breaking news, and then expect our next main episode to come out next week. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, and as always, go green.
Go white.